And they realized that, and somebody made some sort of like negotiation. They came back and they said, okay, fine. You can leave it up and we won't remove our advertising, but please take out hairy vaginas. Those two words, hairy vaginas, are the reason that all sponsored content going forward from that day has to be approved by a brand. I'm responsible for that. Blame me. The brand gets a say now, but you know what? You can blame me for a lot on the internet. I mean, I don't know if you remember this. Andy just mentioned it. My mom is really proud of this. Sponsored content going forward from there was absolutely torturous and soul-sucking because the brand not only got a say, the brand wanted product placement. They wanted rewrites. They wanted to inject everything into your post, and they wanted no irreverence whatsoever. And I joke about John, but he and I have a really good relationship, and he took really good care of me in my contract. Such good care, though, that I had to say yes to every campaign that came my way. And in the days leading up to the end of that contract, because I wanted it to end, I got handed a 3-part series, a 3-part campaign, 3 posts, where I had to stick my kids in the car, drive them to a fun activity, and play a word game in the car, and take photos of them, and then write about it. Except that when I'm in the car with my kids going anywhere, it does not look like this at all. It looks a lot more like this. We are either listening to music and arguing about it, we're not listening to music and arguing about it, we're kicking each other's seats, we're screaming at each other, we're shooting lasers out of our eyes. This is what it looks like. And that 3rd post came along, and my kids were done. They were like, we don't want to do this, Mom. And I had a deadline. And I had to coax and cajole and beg and bribe and scream and plead, please get in the car, let's go do this, we have to do this. And they're like, please, Mom. They were in such a bad mood. And hours and hours and hours later, I got the content that I needed, I got the photos, I turned in a really good piece of writing that was completely manufactured. And at the end of that day, I felt like a completely empty shell of a human being. And thought, this is what I have become. This is how I'm making my living. So in the last almost 15 years of me doing this, I've experienced a lot of success, but I've also experienced quite a bit of crap. I was hospitalized for postpartum depression, which I wrote about, but that depression is now used against me. I'm that crazy woman on the internet. My divorce was played out across the internet, the dissolution of my marriage. I read about it on Jezebel. I read about it in my local paper. I read about it in the New York Times. I read about it all over Twitter. People will recognize me in public. They won't say anything, and then they'll go home and they'll send me an email